So, Lou, I got a question for you. Throughout the history of the NBA, it doesn't matter what era. It could be today. It doesn't matter. What's a young team that you feel like broke up way too soon and you wish stayed together?
This is going to sound kind of outlandish just because the breakup of this team caused a championship. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's got to be the 2017-2018 Lakers. That was the year that they had just freshly drafted Lonzo Ball, number 2, B.I., Lonzo, Kuzma, Caruso as a rookie, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in his 4th year. Like, most of their team was under 20. 5, and they're playing big minutes. I don't know if I said Julius Randle, Josh Hart, Larry Nance Jr. Yeah. Like, it's like when you think about it now, it's like the glory of role players with a couple of, I would say probably BI is for sure an all-star. And then we have some fringe, Julius, and then Kuzma does his thing, whatever. Lonzo got injured. But, like, this is I just need this 8-man rotation. Like, that is crazy to me. And Gary Payton II as well. Like, that team was just it's a team that I feel like broke up too soon. I mean, I guess for the right reasons. It's just as selfishly as a draft, like, that's what I live for. Like, that team just broke up just a tad too soon because I wanted to see some of those pieces together.
And that's I completely forgot GP2 was on that team. And, like, that's because Julius Randle right now, is as much as we had to say about him a couple episodes ago, he's right now the NBA's Eastern Conference Player of the Week. He's a multiple-time All-Star. Brandon Ingram, we know we don't even have to speak on him. We're going to get to the Pelicans one of these days, but we don't even have to say much about him and what he's become. Lonzo Ball is unfortunate with the injury, but I do think had they stayed together and had he been able to kind of stay healthier, you could have him as somebody who could kind of spell LeBron with some of the ball handling responsibility. Lonzo also, we know who he is as a defender, as a rebounder, just completely versatile. Kyle Kuzma, who
one of my guys that year.
And remember, he averaged 18 points per game as a rookie. That's not all that common.
Man, Kyle Kuzma was probably, I think, my 6th ranked player in that draft class. I was super high on him. So when they took him, I literally looked over to my friend. I was like, that's a steal right there. That is what it is. That's unfortunate. Because, as Heat fans, we're kind of conditioned to hate the Lakers. Yeah. I feel like just scratch the first part. I think as NBA fans, either you hate the Lakers or you love them. Yeah. And it was just unfortunate because I wasn't really a fan of them. And then, they put together this squad, and we didn't even give Jordan Clarkson no credit, but he was on there too.
Oh, man.
Like, we're talking about
crazy this year.
Yeah, and we're talking about what is that, like 3 or 4 20-point per game scorers there with BI, Julius, Clarkson's around that range. Lonzo's around the 15-point per game range. Caruso's around 15. Like, we're talking about probably 115 points between 8 guys, which is crazy because it's, it's unfortunate that team was just a little too soon. And they still had the defenders there, with Josh Hart and all that. So KCP, like, just it was a good team. Probably missing a big. They had Zubac, and Thomas Bryant, which were also very young. But, like, they had, like, the all-role team, I guess, now. Like, nowadays, it's like these are all excellent, either role players with a couple of stars sprinkled in there. And, it's crazy to me, man. It's crazy so much talent could be on a roster. And then, them have to basically split that all up for AD. I felt like it was the right thing to do once they got LeBron, but this was pre-LeBron. So I wish that team didn't break up when LeBron got there.
Yeah, I completely forgot all those guys played together at the same time. Yeah, you have to make the AD trade, but I feel like that team is probably a championship core to stick together. The team I have, I can't say would have won a championship, and there's a little bit of an age difference here. I'm 31, I believe you're 26.
Yep.
And so you may not remember this era, but sticking into the same city, I'm going with the early 2000s Clippers. That's Lamar Odom, 6'10" point guard, pretty much. He changed his position when he got to the NBA, but he was a 6'10" point guard in high school and I think college also. Quentin Richardson became, like, by the time he got to Miami, he was really like 3-and-D. Julius Randle, wow. Darius Miles. A lot of people don't remember how good Darius Miles was or was going to be. 6'9", point guards handle, will lock you up, cross you, and dunk on you. South Florida legend Keon Doolin, another 3-and-D.
Hey, shout
South
out
Florida,
Key,
hey,
man.
like that team, Corey Maggette,
Corey, I was going to say,
Elton Brand, one of the best power forwards in that era. I feel like if that team had stayed together, the championship was kind of crazy because it's the Clippers, and we know about their owner and how they were ran.
Yep.
That team actually broke up because the owner was cheap, pretty ridiculous. But I feel like had that team stayed together, it would have been a lot of fun for a lot of years because those guys all ended up becoming really good players. Like your team would have beat the fuck out of my team, but it's like just reminiscing on that era because again, I'm a little older than you. Like, yeah. I was 2 years old at the time, getting into basketball. At that time, jerseys was like so popular. I learned who players were through rap videos, and like that Darius Miles jersey was everywhere. Yeah, and so like man, the impact that team had in a short amount of time while playing on the same arena as one of the greatest Laker teams ever.
Yep.
I wish that team would have stayed together longer.
No, yeah, like you stated, back in that day, back in the early 2000s, having two All-Stars was a luxury. To be honest, it was basically one very good guy and a bunch of role players. Some teams had the exception. Obviously, those teams won chips. But, we're talking about two guys who were, right there at the cusp. So we just with Brandon Maggette, Darius Miles as well. Like Quinn Richardson was a terrific. I believe he played over 10 years, some like 12 or 13. Like, and it's what constitutes a good team. For that era, if that team would have stayed together, I could definitely see them breaking the curse because up until that point, the Clippers weren't very good. Neither were they very good after. But
it's because their owner was their owner. We don't even have to get into that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 4. Number 4 of Playoff Round. Now, before I even get into introducing everybody, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and all that stuff to the show. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback on it. So, hey, if you like it, click the button to say you like it. If you want to follow it, go ahead and follow it. Aside from that, no Frankie again today. He will be back very soon. But I do have my co-host with me once again, Lou. Lou, how you doing today?
Oh man, it's exciting. It's an exciting day, man. I got the Lakers. I said the Lakers again. I got the Pacers game against the Celtics up on the TV. So if you catch me looking up or to the side, it's because I'm trying to keep up with it. It's a very good game so far in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, man. So first things first. So the reason I started with that original topic, players and teams you wish would have stayed together, because I have a quick message to a front office. About 3 hours up the road from where we from. If you drive at the right speed, which is over the speed limits, which you shouldn't do. But to the front office of the Orlando Magic, I understand that contracts come up and you got to pay people and these things are tough to keep together, but do everything in your power to keep this team together. The Orlando Magic right now are what, 11-5?
They're ridiculous. That's what they are.
But my favorite part of it is they didn't even really make that many moves. It's just they're young guys just being used to each other and getting better and improving like young guys do. So they've been on this tear. They lost to the Brooklyn Nets the other day and they broke their streak. But even still, they've surprised me in a sense. And keep in mind, they've been this hot without Wendell Carter Jr. and Markelle Fultz. And so I want to get your thoughts on this team first, because it was a point of emphasis for you to talk about this team.
Yeah, I was, I've been trying to talk about this team. I love this fucking team's construction. I love the way they're built. I think they're built on like a modern NBA scale. Like they don't have a true point guard. They just have a bunch of tall guys who can kind of run point guard. But this team's bread and butter. What they hang their hat on is their defense, and they have so many long, lanky guys who can defend up, down, across, help, switch, peel. Like they do everything. This team is just wrecking straight havoc defensively. That's my biggest takeaway from this 9-game win streak. And this team just leading up into the season, especially once they selected who they selected in the top 10, I was like, yep, this team, they want an identity. And that identity showed out. Like, I think they're the best ranked defense, if not 1, then they're 2 to Minnesota
Mhm.
in defensive rating. Like, this team is ridiculous on that side of the floor.
And so one thing I want to do before we even get deeper into this team, I want to give some credit to Cole Anthony because I may have actually said this off air, but after like the John Wall era of like the mixtapes kind of just going crazy, I stopped paying attention to high school basketball. Then Cole Anthony came around in his freshman year, and he was doing some ridiculous stuff in high school. So I followed him. Went to North Carolina, was pretty inefficient. Was some questions about him. Got to the league. First couple of years, he struggled. But now he's found his role. So I want to know what you've seen from Cole Anthony because I've loved what I've seen from him.
Man, like you stated, he's found his role. And I think there was a lot of rumors about him getting moved this offseason, which is interesting considering, he's kind of what this team has been missing.
Yeah.
And I know he's been there, but this current version of this team, it's like they need that scoring punch, point blank period. Mm-hmm. And he just comes in, he does his role to a T. Like you said, you go in, get your team some relief buckets, keep the offense afloat when the offense isn't going well, and just survive on defense. And that's kind of been his thing. His efficiency has been slightly better this year, or at least it's led to more winning, obviously, with the players around him. But he just feels more comfortable out there. I feel like him going to a consistent role has helped him just understand what his basically his role, his objective is when he comes into the lineup. Like, he knows what he's going to do. And I feel like his first couple of years of his career was like he was starting some games, then they got Suggs, then he went kind of to the bench and, kind of deferred. But now he's basically with that second unit. They're like, you're the guy. Go get us some points. And shout out to him, man, because he's been really good.
Yeah. And so before we even get to who I feel like I know you really want to get to in this, just knowing you, we have to talk about this team's 2 best players. Now, for me personally, I've stated before, I love point guards. But my second favorite type of player is a big 3 or a 4 who can handle, pass, and score. And I feel like the Orlando Magic have 2 of the best in the league. Now, first off, I know you've been like really heavy on scouting people in the draft early. So this first guy kind of surprised me, to be honest, last season. I saw some potential, but I didn't know he would be this. So when did Franz Wagner catch your eye? And how impressive you've been by him? Because since last season, he's been one of my favorite players to watch.
Franz has caught my eye since his rookie year. I liked him coming out of Michigan, but it was like, can he piece it together? How much are they going to trust him? What position does he play at the time? Because he was, and I feel like he's kind of found a home at that 3 spot for real, and he's just settled in so nicely, man. He's one of my favorite players in the league, to be very honest. Like the way he plays, the way he operates, how skilled he is, how developed. Basically, like, he doesn't really have a real weakness aside from, I believe, just getting to the free throw line. Which if he ever gets that, then it's going to be even more of a problem for the league.
And that comes with time.
Yeah, it comes with time. Some players either have it or they don't, to be honest. But he's just, it's like every game, the bigger the stakes, the better he plays.
Yeah.
Like, he's just, man, he's very talented, well, all around. He facilitates for his team. He's a very good passer. I know his assist numbers don't reflect it. The eye test does. Like, he doesn't just, the ball doesn't stick. Very good shooter. His shooting is needed. Really good slasher for somebody. Like, he's a big driver. He gets to the paint. For somebody that size off the dribble is extremely impressive to do. And he knocks down his free throws when he gets there. So I don't really know what more can be said about Franz.
And I'm glad you mentioned the assist numbers not being as high as what his passing ability suggests. Because watching this team, my favorite thing about them is how they move the ball and how they play together. And so that's how you end up with guys like Cole Anthony just kind of getting easier shots, and his efficiency, like you said, he's not a 50, 40, 90 guy. I'm not going to go that far. He may not ever be that guy. But that's how you just get guys easier looks. And I wish more teams play it like that. But it takes some time to figure out. And the reason I chose the opening topic is because this comes with experience playing together. And so I do have one more question before we get to your guy.
Hey,
so
we're good.
Getting Markelle Fultz and Wendell Carter Jr. back, what do you see this team doing from there?
Man, it's. I feel like they're gonna have to make some decisions. This is a really talented team, and we just know in today's NBA, you're not playing 10 guys. Yeah. It's not happening. The depth is nice, but I'm curious to see what their rotation shakes out to be. How much leeway are they going to give some of the guys who've stepped in for specifically for Fultz? I feel like that position is a little bit more murky. I feel like when Wendell comes back, he's good enough that you just move Batate back, to DNPs or some emergency minutes, and I feel like you can kind of roll with that. But at the point guard /2 position, like at the guard position, you got Fultz, you got Suggs, you got Black, you got Anthony. We know what Cole Anthony's role is, so I think the minutes are going to be split amongst those three guys, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see what they're going to do if they take. I don't know what the team's ceiling is because I feel like we haven't seen them fully healthy, and I kind of want to see what their rotation is going to look like. But it's not like none of those two guys that you just stated are bad defenders.
Right.
Like their identity is going to be there. It's just how much offensively is it going to mesh? Yeah. Wendell, we know what he is. He's an absolute just monster of a player. But I'm curious, man. I think if everything hits their cylinder, like everything hits their stride, this team is definitely in the playoffs. I think they ideally they should be around that 5 to 6 range. But if everything hits its stride, I wouldn't be surprised if the Orlando Magic are playing at home game 1 of the of the playoffs. Like they top 4 team in the East, maybe. Like it's kind of a murky spot, but it wouldn't shock me just because of their depth and their youth for them to make it that far. So shout out Jamal Mosley too. I know we don't really talk about coaches, but he's been sensational this year. Like the scheme that he's brought up, like getting the players to buy in at this age on defense in today's NBA, huge props to him. Probably should be, if it was a coach of the year throughout a month and some change in the season, he'd have my vote. I would never get a vote, but he would have mine.
So he just got announced as coach of the month today for this past month. Well deserved, because like you mentioned, getting young guys to buy in on defense is not an easy thing to do, especially young offensively talented guys. And to be the Orlando Magic and be this team that hasn't really had a chance to win up until recently, I'm not saying win a championship, but they haven't been a winning organization really since Dwight Howard left. Yeah. And so to get them to buy in and be motivated and understand, because to be able to defend, you kind of have to feel like you can win. You kind of have to understand the importance of it to win. And so I want to give him credit for instilling that in them, because again, you got guys who, this is not a team of castaways. I mentioned Cole Anthony coming out. I mentioned Markelle Fultz when he comes back. These are like top-notch players who could easily say, hey, you haven't been coaching that long. You're not Greg Popovich. You're not Eric Spoelstra. I'm going to do what I want to do, or you can trade me. So to get that buy-in is very impressive. And what I'm going to do now is, since you've been the draft guy at Miami Heat beat, since you've been there, you've been scouting drafts for a few years. So when I moved up to Dallas, I'm kind of out here by myself in a sense. I know people now, but when I first got here, I didn't. So I just wanted to find things to do. And I realized that, I believe he went to Arkansas, right? Yeah, Arkansas is not that far from Dallas. So I considered just going up there and just catching a game. I ended up not doing it and not having the time. But he was on my radar, but I never got a chance to see college. So I want to know, because I know you were very high on him, I'm going to give you the floor on Anthony Black. You can just go.
Man, Anthony Black, I feel like it was kind of a controversial selection because I just stated, the point guards that they have, 2 guys of which they gave contracts to, or I know Fultz got paid, but Suggs was a high draft pick a couple years before. And then Cole Anthony, he's in the process of getting an extension, or if he signed an extension, I can't remember the timing. And then they go out there and select a point guard who can't shoot. That's kind of what Anthony Black, that's the negative part of his game. He's not a shooter. But when I say they bought into an identity, and I just loved the pick, is because defensively he was shut down in college. Offensively, he has some tweaks to work on. I don't think the jumpers is broken as his percentages are for now. It needed to be worked, but if we're going to get to this draft class, I'm pretty sure in a little bit, a bunch of players couldn't shoot in this draft class. So just take the guy who's 6'6", who can guard 1 through 3, a menace defensively. I know Asar gets a lot of credit because his style of defense is more flashy.
Yeah.
And his athleticism is elite, obviously. But Anthony Black's IQ, I thought he was the smartest player in the draft. I thought he had by far and away the best IQ in this entire class. And I feel like since Fultz went down with an injury, he's done nothing but just get more and more comfortable. The team looks good when he's on the floor. He doesn't really look like a liability on specifically on offense. Things might not be great, but he doesn't look like a non-factor because he's still, very good connective passer. He's doing his role. His role is defensively. This team, he's one of the main reasons they flatten out offenses because his ability to get around screens is masterful. It's crazy. His ability to disrupt point of attack ball handlers is crazy. And that's what the NBA has become nowadays. We talk about rim protection. That's obviously huge. But the other side of that is who's guarding the on-ball screen. And Anthony Black, I don't know. I don't think his minutes should get cut, but I think they will get cut once Fultz comes back, which is a tricky situation. But man, as somebody who's going to have to play this team 4 times every year, it's not looking like a fun time. For anybody in the league playing Orlando, having to go through them in a 7-game series, it's probably possible. They're kind of young, but man, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy.
And this is sort of a tangent that I'm going to try not to get too deep into because this is something that's kind of bothered me for years. When you mentioned the rim protection kind of getting all the credit on defense, and I feel like that front line of the defense is a little more important because if you stop somebody from getting to the basket and making them take a tough shot, you don't even put your center in a situation where he has to decide between his man and helping, or maybe ending up fouling or whatever it is. I feel like if you can just stay in front of your man, you should get a little more credit for that. I feel like just being able to blow up teams' actions, whether it's pick and roll, whatever it is, just having that kind of IQ. And that's kind of why we're going to do award shows when that time comes, just because we're going to have to talk about it. But defense has been the reason I stopped caring about awards. Just looking at some guys who don't have all defensive teams, looking at a guy like Sean Marion never being mentioned. I watched I watch old Cavs games a lot. Iman Shumpert was pretty fucking ridiculous on that end.
Crazy on defense.
Guards just get no credit for that. And I'm glad Marcus Smart won the year before last, and I understand the whole Bam argument with Heat fans, whatever it is. But part of me was just happy to see a guard get some credit. But back to this team, that's a tangent. We're going to get into that some other time. I'm glad you mentioned Jalen Suggs because after his rookie year, and this is why I don't just come down on guys so fast, the word to describe him, in a lot of circles, was bust. Draft him too high. He's too small. He's not getting it done. And he's come back this year just on a goddamn mission. And so, man, credit to him. And I also just wanted, because you scouted this draft a whole lot also, when did he get your attention? Was it the tournament? And did you kind of see this resurgence coming after last season?
Man, to be very honest, no, I didn't see this level of play from Jalen Suggs. The tournament, obviously you turn heads there, but like you said, his first year I was like, I just don't understand the direction they're going. But again, it sounds like he's found a role and he knows what his role is going to be. And his intensity on defense, he feels like the pack leader on defense. Yeah. The way he plays, the locker room guy, everything you stated about Marcus Smart on the defensive end, he kind of does most of those things. Yeah. Is he as good as a defender? I'm not here to argue what side you believe on, but man, he is the impact is there. I'll tell you that. The team believes he's probably better than Marcus Smart. When every time he goes out there, he just gets into people's skin. He's gritty. I just feel like he's a coach's favorite player. Every time you watch him, you're like, that's what I want. But his ability to shoot threes has surprised me. I feel like that's always the most workable skill, honestly, on a prospect is their 3-point shot. So it's nice to see that his shot has come along enough for this team who, as much as we talk about their defense, their offense has some holes and some question marks. He's helped ease some of those with his perimeter shooting so far. So Suggs has been great, man.
And so this is kind of like basketball obsession topic right here, because I don't think anybody's discussing this player or even really cares to right now or has much of a reason to, because he's down in the G League. But a player who interested me in this draft, and there's no room for him in the rotation right now, is Jett Howard. And so I don't know how he's going to get some minutes, but I do want to know what you feel like he would have to do to kind of get back up to that NBA level, and not necessarily get playing time, because like I said, this guard room is pretty deep. But what's missing for him right now?
I think an opportunity. No, very, very frank, very honest. He was one of my guys. And I think he went to the perfect team. I think this is the perfect team for him. However, that position, I feel like he's more of a 3 than a 2, but I'm not here to argue if he's a 2 or a 4. Like, he's kind of in between. That position is very crowded right now. We talked about Franz. We haven't really talked about Paolo, but we have to.
We have to.
Yeah, having somebody like Jonathan Isaac back, having all those guards, some of them slide up to the 3. It's a lot of players. Chumo Okiki, who I fucking love, to be very honest, not even getting playing time. Like, some of these guys, Jett's time's going to come. He's a knockdown shooter. That's what he is at 6'8", who showcases a little bit of putting the ball on the floor. So I'm pretty sure it's just a matter of him getting accustomed and buying in. But he's Juwan Howard's son. Like, the time's going to come. Like, he's bought in basically, since he was fucking 5 years old, I'm pretty sure. So it's very interesting. I'm curious to see how much he plays, and if he plays, I kind of want this team to sit out a couple guys for a while just to see him get some run with the actual ones against NBA competition. Because if he can just survive defensively, man, oh man, Cole Anthony and him off the bench will provide all the scoring punch that you would need to fulfill that hole. So we couldn't move on from this topic without man of the hour.
Like the talent on this player is just, and then he comes back from the Olympics, and I've mentioned in the previous show how that affects players and how they reign the Rookie of the Year, Paolo Banchero. Now, I did say that's my second favorite build in basketball, the big power forward who can do everything.
Oh.
He has no weaknesses to me. He gets to the line like you mentioned. Franz doesn't. He has the handle. He has the post game. He has just everything. There was a lot of talk last year about him not getting enough talk as being as good as he was as a rookie, 20 points per game as a rookie. And he comes back just a lot better, which is scary. And so I want to know your feelings on Paolo Banchero, and how soon did you notice? Because I know he was also incredible at Duke.
Man, last year's draft class was probably one of the toughest for me to rank 1 through 3, because I liked all those players and they were all unique in their own way. However, I was very, very confident in Paolo's floor. I thought he was the best prospect, most NBA ready prospect coming out. At least on the offensive end, I thought his polish was crazy, and we get to see it last year. Sometimes the efficiency hasn't been there, but this year he stepped it up a notch, and his shot is falling, which was to me his biggest, question mark offensively. Is the shot falling? Is it not? But I think his ability to be this big and play make was always a strength. Yeah, and it's wonderful to see him score in a myriad of ways. I kind of compared him frame wise, the way he kind of plays wise, when he was coming out, a lot to Detroit Blake Griffin. Yeah. Which I don't know.
People don't remember how good Blake was in Detroit.
When he first got there, he was doing what Paulo's doing now, except Paulo's not having to do it as much because the team's a little better. Yeah. But it's that kind of build of player, of athlete, of just facilitator for that size. He's averaging 5 assists. And I know everybody like Jokic, I feel like Jokic and some of these guys, they feel like 5 assists is nothing. 5 assists is lot for somebody who's 6'10". Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how long everybody's been watching basketball here. That never used to happen. Like, that never happened. And now it's a common occurrence, with plenty of players. But shout out to Paulo. He's one of those guys, and his usage rate as a passer isn't even that high. So he's been able to affect the game in a myriad of ways. I do feel like the next step for him is just tweaking that efficiency just a little bit more. Hitting some of these free throws, because his free throw percentage isn't really that high. But man, it's truly he is a very, very like elite S tier athlete. So watching him piece all the like the mental things, the IQ things down is huge for him. And I will say the one thing that I didn't end up ranking him number one was just defensive effort. And I feel like if that's your biggest question mark, shout out Jamal Mosey for fixing that, because he's been great on defense too, man. Like, Paulo's been great.
And before we move on, I do want to kind of add to your point about the assists, because we did mention before that on this team, guys' assist numbers kind of get like suppressed because they move the ball so much. But with him, like you mentioned, with not that much, like he doesn't really have to pass that much. So to still be at 5 assists, it just tells me that he's making the right decision and ending those plays. And so I want to give him credit for that. Now we'll move on to the rookies. So first, we know who the big name was. I watched a lot of this guy in his overseas play. I don't have a ton of questions about him. I feel like there was a lot of questions about his weight, but who cares? He's so young, he'll gain weight when he needs to. But Victor Wembanyama, now he's impressed me a lot just because of not only the fluidity, but he has a very high IQ for somebody that young.
Bingo.
Very high IQ. And to be that big and that skilled and read the floor so quickly to where it's not a great idea to double you, that makes for a monster. But I feel like the Spurs they have some stuff to figure out. I don't really, the point Sohan stuff I get, sort of, because you understand you're still rebuilding, but it's just kind of frustrating watching Victor Wembanyama just fly down the lane with both hands up and they just miss him.
Yeah. And
so I want to know what you've seen from the Spurs so far. And I don't even know. We know Wemby's potential is unlimited, but I just want to know what you've seen from that team so far, and specifically with Wemby.
Wemby is special. He's a special prospect. I think some of the Chet stuff, which we'll get to, is overshadowing just how fucking good this guy is. His impact when he's on the floor and when he's off the floor just on defense is like an average defense to like the worst defense in basketball this year. And offensively, efficiency isn't there sometimes, but like you said, the point Sohan experiment, it's kind of what it is. It's an experiment, and it's kind of, I think in some ways it's hurting him, but I think in some ways it's helping him. Because I offensively, I felt like his biggest weakness was, man, he did not pass the ball in France. He did not make an extra pass. But I was always, it got to a point where I was like, can he make the extra pass, or is his role just go get a bucket? We're seeing this year, his role back then was just go get a bucket. Now he is making the extra pass. That's been my most, the thing that I was like, if this dude learns how to pass, he's going to be special. And it's not all the way there yet, but I can see him putting up, 4 or 5 assists for somebody this big, which is again, very, very good for somebody as dominant, as big as he is with the touch that he has. Like, that's exactly what you want. This team is, it's not perfect for him, but him doing all this with this level of team, man, I still think he's generational, as people like to say. I hate when that word gets used, but I do think he is generational. So we'll see how far that goes.
So I do feel like he has been inefficient at times, pretty inconsistent, but that's really only a problem. And we're on the same page with this. It's only really a problem if you're just looking at the box scores and not watching the games. He has to do a lot out there to try to get this team some buckets. And so I never blame guys who have to go out of their way to try to score for the efficiency, because that's just their job. They have to take that. They have to just get the points on the board however they can, right? But I would like to see, and this is San Antonio Spurs, Greg Popovich, they're going to figure some stuff out. I want to see this team with somebody else who has to be guarded. Now, they do have that. And I don't know why his name is slipping my mind right now, because I watched him for years.
Go ahead.
Devin Vassell. My God.
Bucket. That's what he is. But
he got that money, and people were like, why would you pay him that? And I'm like, yeah, y'all need to start watching a little more basketball. He's another one. He will just
3-level score.
You're not stopping him.
No.
You're not stopping him.
They do need a point guard. Like this team undoubtedly needs a point guard. I feel like nobody's in the like the guy that I wanted them to get. He's played so damn good the last 3 games that I don't think they're trading him, which is TJ McConnell. Somebody just literally at that level would help him out so much. So it's not like I don't think anybody should be banging the table for a star yet, because he's gonna need one eventually. But no, man, Wemby's been spectacular. If this team was any better, like if this team was 500 with the level that he's playing at, he would undoubtedly be, probably, the odds-on favorite to win Rookie of the Year. He'd probably be in DPOY conversations because he's been that spectacular, at least on the defensive end.
Yeah, his defense is like you also said, just.
I've genuinely never seen a fucking player in as the pick and roll, like as the big in the pick and roll, play drop at the level and fucking switching at the same time. Like I've never felt like it's his length, his ability. It's not just being long; it's being smart. His IQ on that end, guarding pick and rolls, is, like I said, generational. My comp for him was KG on defense, at 7'5". So do with that as you will.
And just like, even if he's out of position, which is rare, he's still blocking your shot.
He's 7'5". That's the thing. He can be wrong, and he has been wrong, but he's 7'5". So
he's still going to, he's in the paint when you gather for your 3-pointer, and he's blocking your 3-pointer. It's just, and it's not just the length. It's also just the IQ. It's the mobility. It's just all these things that we've mentioned in a previous episode about this next guy, Chet Holmgren. Yep. He's somebody who I also watched pretty early. It's rare for me to watch somebody while they're in high school, but he was just this extremely tall kid who could handle, shoot. I don't even understand his level of talent either, to be honest, especially defensively. Because like we mentioned in the previous episode, it's not just the length. His defensive IQ is one of a 10-year NBA veteran who's won multiple championships and didn't need to score. But he does score efficiently.
He doesn't drop, or Rudy Gobert doesn't drop, except he can also move his feet a little bit, which is it's fucking scary, because as much slander as Rudy Gobert gets, which I think it's unwarranted sometimes, sometimes it isn't, but he's able to do that to the, damn near 80-90% of what Gobert is guarding the paint, except he can do some more switching out. Man, he's special. It's crazy. These 2 classes have given us so much defensive talent, especially at the big position. I feel like people are just gonna they're gonna get I don't know what's the word, but they're gonna, in Spanish the word is malcriado, which it just means you're gonna get like they're gonna expect this every year. And these are 2, because as much as I said Wemby was generational, I thought Chet coming out was generational defensively. And then I saw Wemby and I was like, it's the same guy, 7'5". It's crazy. But it's tough, man. These 2 guys we're in for a good next 15, 20 years of basketball. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, I mean, and with Chet being as great as he is defensively, and then, like I said, historically efficient on offense.
Crazy.
And the thing to keep in mind with these first 2 players we mentioned in this segment is, and I think Zach Harper said this about Wemby. I want to give him credit, and I'm not just stealing his quote. This is the worst they're going to be. So just think about that for a second. As good as they are, they're going to come back next season twice as good. and then the next season twice as good, and then the next season, like, and learning more and being, because their IQs are ridiculous, just being in more film sessions and learning more and being smarter somehow on their defensive rotations. And then, like I said, with Chet specifically, we don't have to mention the efficiency on offense, even though he's not just some low volume scorer. He's a heavy part of the offense and still ridiculously efficient. And I can't, again, like, people would just go to the height with it. It's not just that. There's plenty of real tall guys who can't finish, who can't shoot,
who don't have touch.
Obviously can't handle, who have no touch. Chet, I feel like, does not miss around the basket.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
And
nope.
Like, it's just absurd. Without bias, I'm gonna go ahead and because anybody who's listening to the show, anybody who's familiar with us, they know where we from. Then look, I'm from Liberty City. You from Hialeah. They know who our team is. One of my, well, I can't even say one of my most pleasant surprise, Jaime Jaquez Jr. So when the Heat drafted him, all I needed to see was a couple defensive highlights and them saying he fits. And I was like, you know what? I like this kid. And I can be completely honest now, because we're not in the middle of the fire anymore. When the Dame stuff was happening, I was like, of course, hey, if you could get Dame, get Dame. But the first time Joe Cronin said the bullshit about we don't like that package, even though there was no package, I was like, hey, you know what? Great. Let us keep our young guys. And I really want to see what Jaime Jaquez Jr. can do. But I was only thinking defense. I had no idea he was just this ridiculously skilled on offense. And that's been a trend with younger players these past couple years, just these supremely skilled, fundamentally sound offensive players. And so before I even start rambling, because this is one of my favorite types of players on my favorite team in my hometown, which I have a lot of pride in, I want to get your thoughts on Jaime Jaquez Jr.
So I'm not going to sit here and lie and say he was the guy I wanted, but for different reasons. I thought he was going to be a 10-year vet. Yeah. Like, I thought he was going to be, to be very honest, I thought he was going to be a Grant Williams level player for 10 years. Not Grant Williams like the way he plays. I just thought like that level of player, you know, fourth scorer, either your best, your second best defender, you know, preferably your second best defender, but he was going to play a lot of minutes. Because a lot of the things he did at UCLA were mid-post operating. I was like, how much are they going to trust this guy to do that? How much are they going to trust him? Because he was his foot, man, him coming out, the two things that impressed me was his defensive IQ was fucking ridiculous. Sometimes he gambled a lot, but I feel like he had the liberty to do all that. So, you know, you take some, you win some, you lose some. But offensively, his best skill was just his footwork, his ability to maneuver to get his shot off. It felt like at all times was just crazy. And, you know, shout out to the Heat, honestly, for giving him this freedom, which I fucking begged for. Like, I literally posted before the season started. I was like, if the Heat want to get anywhere near where they were last year, he's got to take them there. Like, and he has. And to be very honest, he's been better than I feel like. And it wasn't my number one option. I was cool with the pick, but man, his competitiveness. There's some things you just can't teach in a prospect. Yeah, he has all of those. Also, he just happens to be like one of the most efficient players in all of basketball in the post, which is fucking for a rookie who's not even
undersized.
Who's 6'6", 6'7". Like that's crazy. It's ridiculous that this team, which just came off of a finals appearance, is running offense through a rookie in the mid post, like not pick and roll because, you know, you're getting bammed. It's ISOs, letting him read the floor. Just I feel like one of his most underrated assets is how good he is as a passer, as a connective passer. The ball doesn't stick. Like when he goes to work in the mid post, he has like a good like internal clock. Like, okay, this possession's taking too long. I'm a dish out. Swing, pass. Or when he gets a swing, like he just knows when to cut. And before the ball is in his hands, balls in the corner. You know, it just Jaime has been. I don't care if it's biased. I don't give a fuck. He's been the third best rookie this year. I think he's been better than Scar. Yeah, and I don't really give a fuck if it's biased or not. Like out of all the people I've seen, he's been the third best one. His impact has been the third best. If you want to go as far as saying his winning impact, shit, you can argue it's better than Wemby's because we're the Heat are winning and the Spurs are not. Whether that's on the players, obviously not. But I'm just saying, like his presence has been felt, no question.
And you mentioned the Heat trusting him, and I feel like for the people who may not have been tuned into the Heat as much, even just trusting him is a bit of an understatement. Like
relying on him.
Fourth quarters. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo are on the floor, and they're like, you know what? Nah, Jaime, pinch post, get out the way. He's going to get it done for us. And I don't think people really understand how crazy that is for Eric Spoelstra, who notoriously outside of Tyler Hero and Kendrick Nunn that 1 year does not play young players really. Very old school coach. To give the offense to a rookie. And I understand he's 22 years old, but we can talk about the stigma 4-year players have anyway. So there's two sides of that coin, but they're trusting him fully in the fourth quarters, and he's getting it done just about every single time. And last thing I want to say about his IQ, the thing that's impressed me the most, because usually with IQ, we think defensive rotations, we think passing the ball, and he obviously has that, but playing offense off the ball has been what's impressed me. That's where he gets most of his points, I think. Because, go ahead.
Yeah. What's crazy is he didn't even play off ball at UCLA. So we couldn't see this part of his game. So the fact that either A, he just picked up on it this quick, or B, he just never did it, like, that's even fucking more impressive. Because UCLA, everything was run through Jaime, let him create, let him do everything. But now it's like, he's like, I don't need the ball. I could. And that's the toughest. That's one of the toughest things to do. You can even listen to Paul George on his podcast. He's like, man, I wish I knew how to cut without the ball.
Yeah.
And this is Paul George. Yeah. Like, this is not, it's crazy that somebody like him is just even able to do this at, I know he's a four-year player in college, but he's 22, man. Yeah. First NBA season, he just fits in. Like, I feel like he's like a piece of clay, and he's just molding into whatever the team needs.
And just with the off-ball stuff, it's the little things, right, that a lot of people don't really pick up on until I think Jimmy Butler said, like, Jimmy Butler didn't pick up on some of this stuff until he was 28 or 29 years old. Yeah. and Jimmy Butler's also, when you include junior college, a multiple-year college player. And so he's staying within the eye line of who has the ball, and he's cutting at the right time every time. And there's times watching them where you just know that wasn't in the playbook. He just knew to do that. And it worked out every single time. And there's just not much more I can say about him aside from, man, I can't wait to see this team healthy. Even if I weren't a Heat fan, just seeing how deep they are and just I can't wait to see that. But to get a top 3 rookie at that pick is pretty ridiculous. And so we're going to finish this off with some other rookies. We've mentioned this one a couple times. Before Jaime broke out, I'm going to be honest, I switched the bandwagon, went with the home team, but with great reason, all the reasons we just mentioned.
Yep.
Ausar Thompson was my favorite rookie. Now, the Pistons are, without question, the worst team in basketball. We don't have to harp on that. We kind of knew that coming into the season. But when you want to talk about somebody who's advanced defensively, like
everywhere at all times.
Game 1 of the season, he gets the Jimmy Butler assignment and does a good job. And this is Jimmy Butler coming off a historic playoff run. So that shows you where the trust is. And from then on, it just has not stopped for him. And he's near the top of the league in rebounds per game at 6'6" as a rookie. I wish the Pistons were better. so he could get the attention he deserves for what he does. But especially on the defensive end, because I don't think I've seen a wing defender that good that early in a very long time.
Yep. In a while, especially, he's getting trusted a lot with a lot of assignments, and he came from like the overtime elite, which is like, I'm not going to trash the overtime elite, but it's not the best brand of basketball.
Yeah.
So him adjusting his game to what was essentially just like everything was a fast break.
Yeah.
To like now his defense is shining, which he was hounding people even there. Like you can tell he was special, but like now everything is like at all times, and he's picking up and he's making these rotations and he's helping out and he's grabbing 9 rebounds a game, like you stated, at 6'6". Like he's helping out his big men. He's ending possessions. He's a little foul prone, which is, I guess, I just feel like he's trying to do so much because this team is so bad that he's like, damn, how can I make this team win a game or two? But that's cool, man. Like his defense has been, like you stated, like a lot of people are just going to like, I'm telling you, man, a lot of people are going to just discredit defense in general because these draft classes have been so fucking elite. Yeah. But most of these players are impactful on both sides of the floor.
Yeah. And before we move on from Ausar, I do want to say he has to learn what a lot of like really strong defenders have to learn, which, like you mentioned, he is pretty foul prone. Smarter players will take advantage of an aggressive defender's aggression. So he has to learn to kind of leverage it, to kind of know when to back off. Like I mentioned this about, I don't even remember which player a couple episodes ago, initiating the contact on defense and being aggressive, but then backing off when the offense player tries to match it. Being able to go chest to chest with a player while he's driving and then back up while he's taking off to lay the ball up. Just those little things are going to help him a lot. And then he's already an elite defender. I have no hesitation calling him that. But once he figures that out, it's going to be real scary. And so we'll go to a couple more guys. You said before the show you watched a lot of Brandon Miller. He's somebody I was curious about also, because I see the skill set, but he did struggle leading up to the season. And so I want to know what you've seen from Brandon Miller in college and how he's kind of going to get to where he needs to be in the NBA.
Yeah, I know a lot. Like the media, it was a very popular consensus. Scoot number 2, Scoot number 2. What is Charlotte doing? They're not drafting Scoot number 2. I, on the other hand, Brandon Miller was my second best player. He was a tier above Scoot. He was a tier above everybody not named Wemby. If I'm being very honest, I loved his tape. It's just he can score at all 3. He can score on 2 levels, midi and threes. He can get to the 3rd level, which is finishing. And I don't think his finishing is that bad. I just think he was the spacing in Bama was a little bad. And just, it's certain nuances. I remember a player who came out and everybody was like, man, this guy can't really finish. His shot selection's bad, was Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
If anybody watched Louisville, they had 2 players in the post. He had to drive in on 3 people every time.
Yeah.
Context is relevant when you watch some of these guys. Brandon Miller is obviously not a Donovan Mitchell level, athlete, let alone finisher. But man, he is, again, tall wing, who can play make, who can shoot, who can get, like every shot that he takes, I'm like, yeah, I feel like he can hit that. Yeah. And that's impressive. His defense is also very impressive. How much minutes he's getting, next to somebody like Gordon Hayward, who I think is just damn near a perfect player for him to learn from. Because, some of his weaknesses with some of the athletic shortcomings that they kind of both had, Gordon Hayward was an athlete, but, they were very similar to your athletes. Not like they were elite, but they were just very good. Him learning all of these things, piecing everything together. Now with LaMelo out, stepping up. I mean, the game without LaMelo, he was putting up 18, got to his shot. Like, he's letting him fly. He's playing free. Just Brandon Miller is, to me, I love him. I think everything I saw in college is translated to a T. So that's also very exciting to see. And I'm just thrilled to see where his future goes, man. I really like him personally.
Yeah. And so Scoot Henderson. Now, look, I know your opinion on him, and we're going to get to it. I will say, though, with his offensive struggles, I have liked the defense. And quiet as kept, Portland has been like
a good defense,
a good defensive team this year. which would probably surprise a lot of people because they're such a bad team. But Scoot Henderson just has to figure the offense out, but the defense is there. But I want you to kind of get into Scoot Henderson because you weren't really even high on him going into the draft.
No, he wasn't even my third player. That's besides the point. I had a man over him. But Scoot, look, he's not bad. He's not this bad. Yeah. I didn't think he was. Everybody was like, it's Wemby, then it's Scoot, then it's everybody else. I obviously just told you why I didn't agree with that. But I don't even think he's in a third tier by himself. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. Some of his shortcomings offensively and how hesitant he's been so far. I think that's his biggest downside. He's way better than this. Like he should not be. He is. I mean, he's been pretty bad. I'm gonna be very honest. Mm-hmm. He should not be this level of bad. But it's just the settling on offense. It feels like he's not he's not even getting to the rim like he used to.
Yeah.
I don't know. Defensively, his awareness was horrible in the G League Ignite. So, I mean, he's been a little better. So there's some signs for improvement. But I just didn't see this level of elite athlete that everybody was comping him to. I feel like Westbrook was kind of like the most thrown around comparison out there, at least for his level of athleticism. Man, Westbrook was the most athletic point guard the NBA had seen for a while. Yeah. And they saw Derrick Rose, and he was just right up there with him. And John Wall, and he was right up there with him. Mm-hmm. Like, this is he's not that level of athlete. So I feel like people kind of just got a little too carried away. Talk about highlight culture. His high school tape was crazy. Mm-hmm. So some of that bias seeping in. I don't think he's going to be as bad as he's been. I just don't think he's going to be basically. I hate that I say this but I thought he had some Emmanuel Mudiay in him, if I'm being very honest. And Mudiay was good, man. It's just, he couldn't adapt. I feel like I don't think he's going to be Emmanuel Mudiay, but it wouldn't shock me. Like, it wasn't like he was a clear can't miss prospect. To me, I thought he had bust potential. He's been showing it. Hopefully, I want every player to go crazy, man. I want the league to be as good as it could be. I'd rather be wrong and the league be good than me be right and they be trash. But right now, he needs a lot to improve on, for sure. Yeah. Malcolm Brogdon should help him, but it's the settling for me that's hurting him. Too much settling.
I will say the thing that scares me about Scoot is what scares me about a lot of top draft picks. I think the thing that kind of gets left out of when you think about these players going to these bad organizations is that they're going to bad organizations. Yep. This is not the 80s and 90s where they have 2, 3, 4 years of college to where they've developed into good players and now they're ready to lead a bad franchise and turn around every single time. Mm-hmm. And so in this case, and Chauncey Billups is one of the smartest point guards I've seen play growing up.
Yep.
That doesn't always necessarily translate to coaching. Look at Steve Nash.
Hey, but you're right there.
But I'm just hoping that it's a little different from what I predict is happening over there. Because a lot of players just have this potential and they just never reach it because the organization doesn't know how to help them reach it. And so that said, this is kind of like, once again, basketball obsessed sicko stuff. But with bad organizations taking on certain types of players and us not thinking it may work, I really like Bilal Coulibaly. He's in Washington, and the best players on his team are Jordan Poole, who we've seen like the lowlights and stuff. Like, I don't even want to make fun of him. I'm just not the kind of person. And Kyle Kuzma, who's a good player, but I don't know if you want those guys kind of like leading you and developing your rookie. And so, well, I love Bilal Coulibaly defensively, but that's what I'm saying is I don't think that type of player is good for that type of organization. I feel like he should have the best thing for him would be to go to a good team. They probably just throw him in there for defense.
I don't know. Coulibaly wasn't, I wasn't super. I thought he was a little bit of a reach. I didn't think he was bad or anything. I just, just kind of high for me, honestly.
Yeah. He was too high of a pick. I will say that.
I had him like a low first round grade, if I'm being honest, like mid to low first round grade. But he's actually, I think he's impressed me more than I thought he would. I think offensively, he hasn't really lost. which was a big thing for me, is he kind of just sometimes didn't know what he was doing. How much is the shot falling? But so far he's shooting 43.5% from three. I did not expect that. That clears a lot of things up offensively. Do I think he's going to be that good of a shooter? No, not at all. I think maybe if you flip the 4 and the 3, like a 34%, that's kind of probably where he's going to end up. But even if he ends up with that, I feel like that's pretty cool. I don't think it was a good team for him to go to in terms of impact. I feel like they should let him play more and be just like, I mean, Washington, you really suck. So
you're not going anywhere.
Just play this kid, man. Like, and it's unfortunate because I feel like the people that are in his same position. So like, Denny Avdija, Kuzma's kind of at that 3-4, Corey Kispert. Some of these guys within their own right are very talented players. Yeah. And it's just like Coulibaly, like, where does he fit in? Honestly, I wish they would have taken somebody who kind of, was just ready to, like, if you're going to go get Jordan Poole and you're going to say you're fine and you're going to pay Kuzma that money, like, don't go out here and get a project player and say you're trying to win. Get a win now player and say you're trying to win, or just get Coulibaly and play him as a project player and just realize that you suck and tank the team. But that's, like you said, bad organizations, man.
That's going to do it for episode 4 of Playoff Foul. I'm Kenny. My social media is at KennySpenceNBA. Lou, give them your social media.
And it's at SaucyTakez. All together, no spaces, with a Z at the end of takes, because I guess that was cool back then. Guys, please comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, what you agree with, what you don't agree with, a topic you'd like to see us talk about. We're here for the people.
Yeah, all that stuff. And if you like the music throughout the show, that's from my brother, Devin. His Instagram is Black Glow Music, so you can go ahead and follow him. Also, he has a couple EPs on streaming services. You can listen to those also. And that being said, we'll see y'all next time.